All right, well, good morning, guys. Happy Mother's Day. It is so good to see you guys on this beautiful Sunday in May. Now, even though today is Mother's Day, today's message isn't going to be just for the moms. It'll be a message for the masses, so to speak, although in honor of Mother's Day, the message will be inspired by one of my favorite moms in the Bible, the Shunammite Mama. Now, she's my favorite for two reasons. The first, have you ever tried to say the word Shunammite? Like, it's so much fun to say. In fact, try to casually drop the word Shunammite in your conversation. And listen, if you're not sure how to casually drop the word Shunammite in your conversation, you could just talk about the sermon today. You're welcome, right? But try to do it. It's a lot of fun to say, you are welcome. The second reason why she's my favorite is because she was my pastor uncle's favorite. And every day, Pastor Uncle Fred, on Mother's Day, would give a sermon about the Shunammite Mama. That's actually why I call her that. She's not actually called the Shunammite Mama in the Bible, but my pastor uncle was a little redneck, hence Shunammite Mama was born. Specifically, though, we're going to be looking at her faith, and at faith, that's what this message is about, and the Shunammite Mama is going to be this delightful and motherly example of faith. Speaking of faith, show of hands, who has ever tried, and all hands should go up for this, who has ever tried to learn a new skill? Has anybody ever tried to learn a new skill? Yeah. When the first time you did it, were you great at it? No, you were not. Stop that. You guys were terrible, right? But over time, as you continued to do that, you probably improved, hopefully. I know you guys are looking at me like I'm a little crazy, so let me tell you what I mean by that. Now, as I was in high school, this is going to shock every single person here, I was not on a sports team. I know, you guys are looking at this physique and thinking, man, are you sure you didn't play sports? I did not play sports in high school. I was, however, on a team. You guys ready? I was on the debate team. Yeah, I was. It was so awesome. Listen, it was just a bunch of nerds. We were just rolling these huge tubs of research that we had painstakingly handwritten out because children, this was really before printing was a thing. We wrote all of our notes. We were carrying these huge tubs of research around in suits, and we would argue with each other for hours on a Saturday. It was so cool. It was just great. Anyway, I went to Hickman, and something that all QPs were known for if you debated is something called the pen flip. Listen, I don't know when it started. I do think that it's still going on, though, because I have been stopped in places, not by a lot of people, but some people, more than one, which is kind of odd, and have asked me, did you debate at Hickman? I felt like a B-list celebrity, and it was all because of the pen flip, right? Here's the thing. It took a lot of time and practice to learn the pen flip. I was absolutely bullied by the other older debate team members to learn it, and once I learned it, though, I could stand during cross-examination. If you're not sure what cross-examination was, it's the point in the debate where you get to try to make your opponent look stupid. It was the best part. Anyway, I could stand during cross-examination, and I could flip my pen with both hands. Sort of looked like a weird human helicopter. It was, in my defense, it seemed a whole lot cooler at the time. Anyway, it's been years since I have debated professionally, and it's been years since I've really consistently flipped my pen. I can still do it, though, because I have muscle memory, but I am a little bit out of practice. So let me show you what I mean. Like my left hand or my right hand, I'm still pretty good. I'm not nearly as fast as I used to be. This is impressing nobody. My left hand, though, is a little bit challenging. Yeah, see, and I used to be able to just, right? I've lost some of my ability. What the heck does this have to do with faith? Well, faith is hard. Is it okay for me to say that? It doesn't come naturally for a lot of us, and I see it as this skill that as believers, we need to be diligently working on to increase our ability and our resiliency in it, similar to my weird pen flip. Or any skill, really, that's learned and acquired, you need to be consistently and constantly working on it. Otherwise, what happens, if you aren't working on it, again, sort of like my pen flip, your skills will atrophy over time. And faith is already hard, so not working on it, guys, it's just going to make it that much harder. So because faith is hard, it's our responsibility to continue to work on it. In fact, here's what the Bible says about faith. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the reality of what is hoped for, the proof of what is not seen. Do you know how hard it is to believe in something that you haven't seen or haven't had any proof of? As a business owner, let me tell you, it is tough. Man, I transitioned this year into fully owning my insurance agency, and y'all, I don't have this large book of business that I was used to comfortably living on. So my 9-to-5ers in the room, you guys clock in, you know those hours will be totaled, and at some point you're gonna get a paycheck. Business owners, you have to put in some work and then have faith that that paycheck will be there, if you know what I mean. Here's the deal. The reason why I'm so calm is because I have been living this way for a long time now. I am used to it. I have been working on and practicing it for a while, and while I still have some moments, I've also watched God show up time and time again for my family and my business. I've been praying and I have been studying the word and I've been serving, and so what I've done is that my faith skill has been honed in because I have been working at it diligently for years. Okay, now to the Shunammite Mama, so we can take a peek at her faith as our example. First, her story is found in 2 Kings 4. Basically, she is this rich, married woman. She has no kids. And one day, Elisha, who is my second favorite prophet in the Old Testament, and yes, I absolutely do have favorites, obviously. Anyway, Elisha stops by her house for something to eat, and evidently this becomes a thing. Every time he travels by her home, he stops in for a bite to eat. It becomes so frequent that the Shunammite Mama decides that the only logical thing for her to do in this moment is to have her husband build a small room into their house for Elisha to stay with them while he's passing through. Now, this is key. She made space for him in her life. She prepared for him. It wasn't just he showed up at her doorstep and she just threw something together. She intentionally planned and worked and created space and spent time and resources on the man of God. And this is critical because she did it for zero gain. We know that because Elisha asked her if there was anything that she wanted, if there was anything that he could take before the king or the commander of the armies, and she was basically like, I'm good. I have got everything I have need of. And while I won't spend too much time on this contentment in this piece that she displayed is just so beautiful. Because she was at peace and she was content, not because she had everything that she wanted, because she didn't. She really wanted a son. She was content because she chose to be. That's a little mini message inside of the much bigger message. Well, evidently this wasn't good enough for the man of God, and so he asked Gehazi, his assistant, what do you think the Shunammite Mama may need? And Gehazi said, listen, she has no son, and her husband is old. This is going to become a problem for her in the very near future. And so Elijah called her to him and said this in 2 Kings 4:16. And he said, at this season, about this time next year, you will embrace a son. That's a pretty bold statement. Well, I love her response, and I'm adding a little emphasis here, although I would encourage you to read it because this is such a great story. She says, don't lie to me. I have been content. I have been at peace. I have made peace with the fact that I don't have children, so don't come here and tell me that I'm going to have a son if, in fact, I am not going to have a son. Well, she does have a son, so evidently Elisha was not lying. And when the son got a little bit older, he's working out in the field with his father. He complained that his head was hurting. The father sent him to his mother, where she held him in her lap until he died. This is where faith comes in. Because here's what she doesn't do. She doesn't freak out. She doesn't fall on the floor. She doesn't run around and tell everyone what's happened. She tells her husband, go and saddle the donkey so that I can find the man of God. Like, this woman was a legend, and when her husband asks her why she needs to do that, here's what she says to him in 2 Kings 4:23. And he said, why will you go to him today? It's neither a new moon nor Sabbath. She said, all is well. I love that. All is well. Not because in this moment it looks like all is well. There's no visual proof actually at this point in time that all is in fact well. No, she's speaking from the depths of her faith, and from the depths of her faith, all is well. And so she sets off to find the man of God on a donkey, riding hard for Mount Carmel. When she gets to him, now she falls at his feet. And this is what she says. Then she said, did I ask my Lord for a son? Did I not say, do not deceive me? This is so great. Because again, here's what she didn't do. She didn't fall at her feet and say, my son is dead. Notice in all of her interactions, at no point does the Shunammite mama ever say that her son is dead. Her faith muscle, her skill is so dialed in that the only thing that she says is that all is well. And you told me, man of God, that I would have a son. Don't deceive me. You were the one that said I was going to have this son. I didn't ask for him. And now I need you to live up to the promise that you gave me. I just think this is so good for a couple reasons. So often when we, and by we I mainly mean me, when we're dealing with an issue, when life has handed us this giant lemon, right? We spend all of our time dealing with it, stewing on it, worrying about it. In fact, when we go to our prayer time, often what we do is we start listing out all of the horrible, awful things that are going wrong. In great detail, we list them out. It's almost as though we have more faith in the problem than we do in our God. So lesson number one that we can learn from the Shunammite mama's faith is spend less time focusing on the problem and more time focusing on God and his promises. And listen, can we be real with each other for just a second? And this is going to step on my toes here for just a moment. This is just a little side note. Do we ever feel better when we're stewing on the problem? Do we ever add anything to the solution when we're just worrying about it, when we're talking about it, when we're running around, and if you're like me, you're probably whining about it? Absolutely not. It does nothing to help the situation. It only will make the situation worse. So we really do need to knock it off. And I'm really speaking, again, mainly to me here. Now, lesson two that we can learn by looking at her faith is she goes directly to the man of God. And the extrapolation here is that she takes her issue directly to God. She knows exactly who she needs to go to. And man, is this something that we can lean into as well. Because instead of trying to fix the situation ourselves, I'm pretty guilty of that, or taking it to our friends and family to see if they can help us fix it, we just need to go straight to God. That's exactly what she did. She didn't talk to anyone about her issue, and it wasn't until she got to Elisha, and it was only once that she got to the man of God that she allowed herself to speak about the situation. So lesson two, when we have an issue in our lives, we need to take it straight to God. But I'm more excited to talk about the third lesson here, and that's really the lesson that allows her the ability to do the first two. And it's this. Because she had been diligently serving Elisha with no expectation, just because of who Elisha was and because of who Elisha served. So she served Elijah, and it was the service to Elijah and her God that strengthened that faith skill, because every time she prepared a meal and every time she served him, she was reminding herself of who Elisha was and, more importantly, who Elisha was serving. And again, she wasn't doing it so that she could get gain, but rather it was her honor to serve him and her God. This is where we mess up. Now's the time for a couple of uncomfortable questions. First question, are you serving God? Listen, this is mission critical for you in your faith. Are you reading the Bible daily? Are you praying? Are you part of a church? And at that church, are you happy and excited to serve, or do you grumble and complain and look for an excuse to get out of it? I did say these questions were going to be uncomfortable. Question 2, if you've answered yes to the first one, why are you doing it? Are you doing it because God is God and he's worthy of our praise and our worship? Or are you doing it because you are hoping that he'll bless your business or your family? Are you serving him for the benefits or because of who he is? Look, that Shunammite mama did not have to feed Elisha, but she did. It was actually her idea. She urged him to eat. That's in verse 8. And she didn't have to build a room for him on her house, but she did. And not because of what she could gain from it, but because she was compelled to serve God. And because she had worked that faith skill by showing up and serving and reminding herself continually through her actions who God was to her when things got awful and her son, her promised son, died in her arms, she didn't fall apart. Her faith kept her together. Her faith kept her up on that donkey, declaring, all is well, until she reached the man of God. The only reason that she could do this is because she had been consistently and constantly working her faith and keeping it in the forefront of her mind, who God was and who God was to her. And we should be doing the same. We need to be making space for God in our lives. We need to be showing up and serving him, not because he needs us to. And man, is that key. God is complete in and of himself. He is fully and totally self-sufficient. God does not need you to serve him. You need to serve him. You need to serve him for yourself and for your faith, because it's through that service that you're able to reorient your heart and remain in that place of reverence and awe for your Creator. It's from that space that we're able, when things go horribly wrong, that we're able to maintain our faith and trust in him. The challenge is, we don't really understand the impact that consistent worshiping of God and serving him, we don't really understand the impact that it has on our hearts and on our faith, and so we wait. We allow other things in our lives to take precedence. Our faith atrophies because we're not consistently working on it. So when life happens, our faith isn't prepared to handle the weight of it. The Shunammite mama was able to remain steadfast and focused because of all the work that she had consistently put in serving God through serving the man of God for all of those years. And when her son died in her arms, she was ready to step out in that faith, take her issue to the Lord, and trust that God was in control, which is great when the outcome is what we want. That's when we get to stand up on stage and shout the testimony. And that's what happened to the Shunammite mama. Her son was made whole. But that isn't always what happens. Sometimes things don't work out. Sometimes it does feel like the world wins. Sometimes we don't get the desired answer to our prayers, and that's when you need faith the most. That's when you have to hit your knees and say, thy will be done. Trusting God when things aren't right is the hardest thing for a Christian to do. And the only way that you can even begin to be able to do this is from a place of faith, because it's faith in your God that allows you to find comfort in the scriptures like Psalm 34:18. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Or Isaiah 49:15 through 16. Can a woman forget her nursing child, that she should have no compassion on the son of her womb? Even these may forget, yet I will not forget you. Behold, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Or Revelations 21:4. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. These scriptures and others in the Bible can only provide comfort when you have faith in your Creator, when you need him the most, but you can't wait until things go horribly wrong to build that faith. That's something that we need to be consistently and constantly working on. You'll only build your faith up if you, like the Shunammite Mama, diligently work to serve and worship God. So my encouragement to you today on Mother's Day is to do the hard work today. Put in the time, show up, make space for God in your life and in your heart so that you'll have faith in him when you need him the most. Let's pray.